Hello and welcome to Guinness World Records Gamers Podcast. I'm your host and editor of the Gamers Book, Mike Plant, and with me is Luke Wakeham, our Video Games Records manager.
Hello.
And Andy Loughlin, our trained journalist freelance help.
Here he is. Wow, the help.
The help.
Yeah, that's made me feel really good about myself.
No Jack this week, he's poorly, so get well soon, Jack. Right, we've got a bit of a different show for you this week, so we're going to take a bit of a deep dive into the games of the year so far and see if we can work out the front runners. Where when it comes to the end of the year, what are these games which will still be in the running?
The runners and riders.
The runners and the riders.
It's been the Grand National, hasn't it?
And a little bit before we get to that, a bit of housekeeping. So we're going to become a fortnightly. I hope this isn't news to you guys.
No, I know. What?
I'm joking.
I just bought a house.
So we're going to become a fortnightly show from this point onwards. So obviously check in with us every couple of weeks. We're still going to have all of the old shows there that you can check out. If you Google Guinness World Records Gamers Podcast, you'll be able to find us on YouTube, Spotify, iTunes, and everywhere else you would reasonably expect to find a podcast. All right, let's get on with the show. Okay, so before we go to the big subject of the games of the year, let's talk about what we've been playing, what we've been up to. Who wants to go first, Luke?
There you go. You always decide.
I know,
you do always decide. You ask and then you
decide.
So I've been playing Mortal Kombat 11, which has been quite exciting because I have always kind of enjoyed the Mortal Kombat games. I skipped 10 though. Basically, I think after 9, I had to come to the realization that while I love the idea of fighting games, I'm just not very good at them. I'm just not very good at them at all. And these NetherRealm games, including the Injustice ones, are quite... They're accessible in the fact that there's a lot of single-player content. There's lots of story modes. There's lots of things to unlock, lots of like arcade-type modes and perpetual online type things in the form of towers and stuff like that. Yep. But they're very difficult because you have to have lightning fast reactions. The combos in this sort of game are kind of like, rather than them being one-to-one with your actions, you have to kind of go and then the combo happens type thing. So it can get it takes a bit of time to really get into the sort of feel of the game. And I would say that about any fighting game really, that you need to commit a lot of time to it. And all these games, they have tutorial modes that are like, right, this is how you do this is how you do that. But then after that, it's kind of like this vast ocean of like gameplay that you've got to master.
Yeah, only the pros go into really.
Exactly. You've got to start looking online at frame data and stuff like this and find out what your block strings are and all this kind of stuff. And unless you're really committed to really getting into the nitty gritty of it, it can be incredibly daunting. But that being said, Mortal Kombat 11 does have a very fun story mode. I think all of the Mortal Kombat games since 9 have now had like a very deep and sort of like quite silly story mode.
So this one manages to bridge all of it together and...
Well, it's done that several times. I swear 9 basically reset because you had Shao Kahn beating up Raiden at the beginning of 9, and then Raiden sends his amulet back in time to the very first Mortal Kombat when they're all getting together, and then it progresses through changing different things about it. Yeah. And then 10, I think, again, may have done something similar.
10 definitely resets it all again, I think.
Well, this one kind of does as well.
I'm only going off what I've read about Mortal Kombat 11 to what might have happened in 10.
So in Mortal Kombat 11, basically what's happened is you've got an evil version of the main guy. I can't remember his name now. Who's always supposed to win?
Oh, who's the evil guy?
Oh, Shao Kahn?
It's not Shao Kahn. Shao Kahn is the big evil, but he's not the big evil in this one. No, Raiden and Liu Kang. It's Liu Kang.
Oh,
the guy who does the kicky thing.
And turns into a big old dragon.
Yeah, and turns into a big old dragon. So he's evil.
I always knew it.
Other things have been happening.
We suspected as much.
But this is the thing about all these sort of games and their lore can be quite
impenetrable. It's got more twists than Line of Duty.
Pretty much.
No spoilers.
This one has the gimmick, I guess, of what it's doing is it's combining the older version, the modern versions of the cast with their previous selves. So you've got old Johnny Cage with young Johnny Cage, and some sort of silly things do sort of transpire. And you do progress through the story mode like do the traditional sort of fighting games. Like you have a character, you play a couple fights with them, and then you switch over to another character.
Yeah, so it does it in
chunks.
It tells you what player you're gonna be, basically, doesn't it? It dictates to you.
Which is strange because you kind of go into the practice mode and you test yourself out with a character. You play a couple missions and then it throws you a completely new character. And you're like, oh, I don't know how to do the combos or the special moves for this person. So you always find yourself pausing, looking at the move list. Right, if I go down, circle, it does that. Left, right, back, and so it can be a little bit of it takes a little bit of time to get into it and to get used to it. I haven't really gone into any of the like towers, which is essentially the arcade modes.
Yeah, that's just where you're,
stuff.
And it's always like you're on fire and you've got to like beat them to a time limit.
There are some even sillier challenge modes, which are those that have the weird modifiers on it. But I think they've been a thing since Mortal Kombat 3, Ultimate Mortal Kombat or something.
There's a bit of criticism of the grind.
So I was just about to say the crypt.
Yeah.
I think there was that it was so grindy that everything cost so much and you got very little resources to sort of spend on there. But they have fixed that in a patch. I've only gone into a little bit because again it's just a case of like, oh, do I want to unlock all these different costumes and skins and stuff like that? And it's just a case of like, well, I'd rather play the game first before I then start getting really into unlocking everything.
Yeah, no, I've never really been into the grind of these things. It's getting a lot of positive reaction though for its tutorial. I don't know if you've dived into that much.
So one thing it does do is it gives you individual character tutorials. So it actually walks you through each character, because a lot of the time in these tutorial modes for fighting games, it literally just sort of throws you in, right, these are all the buttons you need to press to do the various different types of mechanics within the game. So whether or not it's blocking or rolling out or dodging out of a combo. But this one it says like, right, Liu Kang, you've chosen him, this is the sort of special moves he's got, and it actually gives you little like sort of hints as well. It's like, this one is safe on block, does this, it has a quick startup so you can do this with it. And so it does sort of really sort of try to encourage you to like, right, this is the type of play you can do with this character if you want to.
No, it's good because like I remember like playing certain Street Fighter games and stuff like that, and you think you've got a grasp of it, you know how to do all the moves for Ryu or whatever, but then when you actually look into, like you were saying before, all of the craziness that the pros go into to get good at it, it's like it's almost incomprehensible. And at least this is giving you a little lead in, whereas I don't think in any Capcom game
I don't think
they've ever done this level. Like, they've done a tutorial, but I don't think it's ever been this deep into like what it means, how blocking something and then how that then leads into the next combo is like works and links.
I mean, there is a frame data tutorial, but I think the biggest sort of hump for me when it comes to these fighting games is firstly not watching your own character, watching your opponent. Because I always fall into this trap of just watching myself trying to pull off the special moves where I should be watching the opponent. Or there's the fact that when I'm trying to actively remember what the moves are to pull them off, rather than relying on muscle memory. So it's got to get to that point, and then you can, I guess, start getting good.
It's slower, isn't it? Than I hear it's slower than a lot of fighting games. It's a bit more of a kind of like
it's a bit more methodical. But it's weird because it has a slower pace of the fighting, say compared to like Dragon Ball Fighter Z. But the actual button combinations to pull stuff off is so quick.
You got to be really lightning
like that. Right, I've done that. Now moving into this bit. But then I guess it's when you're not punching, or kicking, is when you have your thinking time, which a lot of games. Fighting games don't typically have.
How are the fatalities in a PG?
I would love to be in a workshop at NetherRealm. So they go, let's brainstorm some fatalities, because some of these are just ridiculous.
Some of them are gross. I did remember before this came out trying to watch a video. It's like a 10-minute video of all of them. I got about 2 minutes in. And then I had to turn it off. I was like, not even for me.
Someone taps on the shoulder and goes, what are you doing?
Research. I'm doing research.
Not safe for work. I mean, it's creativity is kind of nuts, isn't it? Really, I mean, like the way that you could kind of pull someone apart is
it's the leather of detail and the sort of juiciness.
Well, they made it. They made it more juicy and more crunchy, haven't they, over the years? So now it's like very.
But it's always
visceral.
It's still ridiculous, isn't it? It's like still just technical violence, isn't it? Really, and I think. It does what it sort of says, doesn't it? It's kind of like, and then I suppose you've got the crunching blows as well, haven't you? Now with the
X-ray
fatal blow.
So you've got the fatal blow, which is sort of like a special move that you can pull off only once per game, and only once you're down to like a critical level of health. So you can choose to save that for the second round or the third round, or use it straight away to try and get the upper hand. But then there's also like these crushing blows as well. Crushing spelled with a K. And basically, it's whenever you fulfill certain criteria. So maybe you've landed 3 consecutive attacks of the same attack. It does this sort of special like X-ray crunch thing, which deals more damage. And so lots of the characters have various versions of this. So there's a meta game to be played within the actual game.
What I find amusing is that they then get up. Because that's
Straight
not killing
away,
them, is it? Like, you're like jamming something through their eye sockets.
And then they get straight back up again.
And again, some of them are monsters, so you know,
Well, yeah.
true, it's like you know, they're not going to.
Some of them are robots as well.
Yeah.
Shall I just review anything else you've been up to, or just?
I have played through Wolfenstein: The New Order as well.
Nice.
This was the first one of theirs.
Yeah.
I'm on the goddamn moon.
Is it that one? There's is it Old Blood the second one?
Old Blood's the.
That's the one that was kind of like a
expansion.
spin-off.
The DLC kind of thing.
And then the new Colossus is the new one, and then we've got another one coming out, which is his
Youngbloods, right?
the Youngbloods,
Which is his daughters, isn't it?
It's a silly game. It's fun. It's silly. The sort of combat mechanics are fun and crunchy. Like the gameplay is like really satisfying.
I like the way you've gone from Mortal Kombat going, oh, it's so bloody, to the bloodiest first person.
I've had a very lovely weekend. But no, again, I've just been sort of getting through that, and it's the story's silly, but and entertaining and fun. I don't like stealth mechanics in a first person like action game like this.
That's the one that makes you go and find the commander, doesn't it? And then otherwise he sets the alarms off.
It's not too bad if you like. You first have to sort of unlock the perk to find out where they are on the map, and then it's quite simple to just get to them, dispatch them, and then move on. But it's just something that slows the pace down.
Yeah.
Where like the 2016 Doom. Was it the Doom
like
reboot?
Doom
where it's just like punch straight through. It's all action all the time, and it's great. This one, it just slows it down for a bit, and you're like, but I don't want that.
No, and it also makes you go, oh, not this again. You know, and I hate it when you play games like that, and you're like, oh, God, I've got to do this again. And it's because it's a mechanic. It's even worse, isn't it? It's not like a sequence that you didn't enjoy. It's like the same thing.
Every level has a little stealth section in it.
They've got some with 2 commands, haven't they? So you've got to kill 2 of them. Yeah, I think it's even.
I was just shooting them with a silenced pistol from afar.
Yeah,
like, I'm not going all the way over there. Done.
Yeah. Double shotguns. I mean,
but when the action starts happening, it's amazing because just the sort of thrill ride of dual wielding double machine shotguns. It's just insane.
Like, I am immortal, basically.
And being on the mother flipping moon.
It's fun. I'm
great.
looking forward to the new one coming out, actually.
Yeah, I'll give it another spin. I didn't really like the number 2. I just kind of got bored with it, really.
The
New Colossus.
New Colossus, okay.
It lost me a bit, but I really liked Old Blood, and I really liked. Hold on a minute.
There's Old Blood.
It's New Order,
Old Blood.
New Colossus.
Yeah.
They like their new and old, basically, don't they? And their blood. Moving swiftly on. I've been playing SteamWorld Quest, which is excellent. So this is by Image and Form. It's like they've done all the SteamWorld games. Starting with one that I didn't realise, actually, they have like an Android, I think it's for mobile phones, like a tower defense game where it all started. It wasn't actually SteamWorld Dig where it all started. Who knew? This is really good. So it's an RPG, turn-based RPG, but you're building up your card decks, and all your characters' moves are based on their own deck of cards. So you might have like magical cards or physical attacks and things like that you can do, or power-ups. So as you're going along, you're taking turn-based battles, but you're also hoping that the right cards come up for the right occasion. And then to add an extra level of complexity into it, you also have like gear points, and some moves are quite powerful and require you to have like gear points that you've already earned, and you earn them by doing the any attack basically earns you 1 gear point.
Right.
So the tactics comes in where you're having to, so you have 3 attacks you can do each turn, and if you do say 2 that don't cost any points, it means that those 2 still accumulate to the point where you can then do one that does cost points. Really hackneyed way of saying that basically you've got to really think about your order of moves you're going to be doing, and also depend on getting the right ones at the right time.
Right.
You can burn 2 cards every round of combat, so you can then get 2 back, like kind of like in poker or whatever.
Right.
So it comes into managing your deck of cards, and then you go around when you kill enemies or find treasure chests. Sometimes you'll find more cards, or you can craft them as well. And then you can only have 8 cards in each character's deck at the same time, which means that you have to like manage your deck of cards that are on you. It's kind of like being a, you know.
So it's not quite like Hearthstone in the sense of you have a deck and you're battling with that deck. It's
no, yeah, you have to manage it. So you can only have, in essence, you've got 4 characters each. No, 3 characters. Well, each character basically has 8 cards. So in any given fight, all of the characters have their own 8 cards, but your deal of cards is a mixture of those characters' cards.
right. Okay.
It's pretty it's not actually that complicated when you come to play. It's just to explain, but it's especially when I try and explain it. But yeah, but it's really good. So there's just enough interest and tactics in it to keep you coming back for more.
Yeah.
And it's really cutely presented, like all the SteamWorld games are. So all all little like punky steampunk robot type characters. This is set in like an old medieval realm where there's mecha dragons and mecha monsters.
Medieval zone.
Yeah, exactly. It's imagine if Crystal Maze and you had the industrial zone, but it also met the medieval zone. That's
wow.
Steampunk
mashed together.
Yeah, mashed in some kind of mash.
What an idea!
Yeah, so that's one thing I've been playing, which I've been enjoying very much, and also I've been playing a lot of Tetris 99. Still can't get enough of the Tetris.
How many wins?
No wins.
No
second
wins.
Place. Second place.
That's pretty good. Like, second place.
When you get to the last few people left, they're just whizzing down so fast. It's like it's unreal. When I got second place, it wasn't even a close second. I was like looking at the guy whoever won, and they were still at the bottom of their thing in comparison to me. He was like being freaking panicking
mode.
over time. One day I'm sure I'll find the right group of rubbish 99 players who I can beat.
Can I ask for some tips? Because I've been playing this as well, and I've been struggling. At the very beginning of the game, I seem to get attacked by like 3 or 4 different people. How do I fly under the radar?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. So obviously at the start, you've got your 4 options. You can attack people who are attacking you. You can attack people who are earning badges. You can attack people who are almost dead, and you can attack people just at random.
Yeah.
And I think I always tend to gravitate towards attack people who are attacking me.
Right.
That seems to be the one that results in less attacks upon myself.
Okay.
For some reason.
You scare them off.
I don't know why. But yeah, like sometimes it'll just there's no way to come back from it. Sometimes it'll just attack you with 3 different Tetris's worth of stuff, and it just goes zunk, and even if the best managed board is like in your right at the bottom, you can just fill it up instantly because people are attacking you, and they gang up on you basically. They're mean.
Oh, people are cruel, aren't they?
People are cruel.
I just want to win.
I don't know if it's got to the point now where because I can't quite win it, I'm like I get flustered when I get to the last couple as well, so it's getting worse.
You have
it's
a little tantrum.
Yeah. No, not a tantrum. I mean, like I start fluffing up more because like, there's more tension.
Because you get like shaky hands.
Yeah, exactly.
Sweaty palms.
But it's so good. Like it's such a simple idea. I don't know why it's took this long in our lives for it to come along.
It's pretty clever, isn't it? Actually, because it makes total sense as well for that competitive element, but also like the repeat, rinse and repeat. Like it's so perfect for that, isn't it?
It's so good. It's such a good game, and technically, it's not for free. So you've got to buy a Nintendo account, but it's cheap.
I think that's kind of sold the Nintendo Online in a way, hasn't it?
Absolutely,
like, people are loving it just for that.
What's nuts is, I've got a 2-year-old, so sometimes I'm up at stupid times in the morning, and there's always 100 players. I've never had one game yet where it's not had a full complement of players.
Pretty good, isn't it? Yeah, you can always find a game like pretty quick.
Yeah, it's really good. Anyway, Andy.
Yes, hello. So I've been playing. Well, I picked this up. Goodness me, it must be a while ago now, but I've started playing it again, which is Far Cry New Dawn, which is kind of, it's one of those things that's where Far Cry does, where it takes the same map and basically skins it really with a new thing. So there's no spoiler in this, it's the start of the game, but obviously the bombs go off at the end of Far Cry 5, and this is the post-apocalypse. But it's not your usual Fallout post-apocalypse. Fall Cry, I just combined them together.
Another mashup.
Yeah, I merged them. It's not your usual kind of quite grim, quite sort of like dull colour palette, sort of horrible post-apocalypse. For some reason, nature has gone nuts. It's like Technicolor, everything's purples and yellows, everything's popping, like there's animals are going mental. They clearly like being irradiated.
These animals just going crazy.
Are you wearing like a suit, or
no? You're literally just, everyone is out there just breathing the air and but I don't
So
know how.
it's like 50 years when to have
No,
passed
it's like
away.
I think it's like 18 years or something. I mean, from my basic knowledge of nuclear fallout, based on Chernobyl, I don't think it works like that. But
I've not started watching the show yet. Actually, I'm
it
quite
looks
looking forward
good.
to it.
Yeah, I watched a really good show where they were building the dome over the top. It was amazing. It's like locking the reactors, because I think reactor 4 or something is still basically, live. Anyway, so basically, like you're in this fallout from the bombs going down, but it's a kind of a living, breathing world where nature's sort of half taken over. But you're in a kind of settlements and groups trying to build their lives back together. But then there are some bad apples in the form of the Highwaymen, which is run by two ladies who are badasses, and they're looking to kind of enslave the in the world and get them to work for them in sort of a vein of Negan from Walking Dead type thing, really. They're a bit thin as characters. I mean, like, Fallout's had some quite good villains. I don't think actually Joseph was that great, but I'm looking back to kind of...
You mean Far Cry when you say Fallout?
Oh my god!
I'm very confused.
Far Cry, sorry. Far Cry has had some great villains. I'm thinking of was it Vance?
3 and 4, or
3 and 4.
Yeah, Vass was a good one.
Vass, that was
and also the guy in 4 who kind of drifted in and out. But
What was he called? Well, he was only really in the start and
Troy
the end,
Baker,
but he was really good.
He was really good, and they're fine. I mean, they're kind of good enough. I'm actually enjoying it more than I
Pagan
enjoyed
Men.
Fallout. Pagan Min, that's it. Yeah, and he was really good when he was on, and you kind of missed him when he wasn't, which is kind of good.
Yeah, he was underused though, wasn't he? I think.
Yeah, true. So I've kind of like I've actually been enjoying it much more than I enjoyed Fallout 5. Far Cry 5. Goodness me.
Fallout 5 just been announced.
Yeah.
I'm glad I'm not the rubbish one.
World reveal. So basically, I'm enjoying it a lot more. Actually, I think the thing about Far Cry 5 was, it was a bit sluggish at times, even though I really enjoyed it. It was just a bit sluggish. It had that sort of Far Cry kind of like grind. But also I think, weirdly, the setting and the current climate felt a bit jarring. We were very much in contemporary America, very much in a kind of near-the-knuckle story. And actually, you didn't realise at the time, but I kind of probably weighed a little bit heavy. It felt a bit too close. Whereas this is just like, there's no way like a post-nuclear world is going to look like this. It just goes, do you know what? I don't care. I'm just going to do whatever I want, and I'm going to allow you to go mental in this world. And that's what Far Cry really should be all about. It should just be about just nuts action, just crazy driving a quad bike over a hill, chucking grenades, like blowing things up, being attacked by a bear. That's what Far Cry should be all about. And it actually feels a lot more attuned to that than Far Cry 5 did. So I'm actually really enjoying it.
Are the animals made up? Is there like a half honey
little
badger,
bit.
half antelope or something?
No, they've been slightly tweaked, but mostly no. It's just like a bear's a bear, and I don't know how that works biologically. I mean, like, but then again, would they mutate in 17 years? Probably not.
Yeah,
So it's just an angry bear and everything. Yeah, as
a
usual.
radioactive angry bear.
No,
As
half
usual.
man, half bear, half pig.
As
Man,
usual,
bear, pig.
man, bear, pig, yeah. Man, bear, pig. As usual in Far Cry, every animal is aggy, and wants to take you on, like eagles chomping down your head and stuff like that. So that's just a series given. So I'm really enjoying that. The other game that I'm playing is on Switch, and it is Hell is Other Demons by Cuddle Monster Games, who must be fans of Jean-Paul Sartre. I assume that's where they take the inspiration from. But this is actually a really nice, interesting game. You at first think it's going to be sort of a bit like kind of a roguelike sort of clone, and it kind of is in a way, but it's much more about like small battle arenas. So like individual screens where you kind of go on a kind of map, and then you fight battles within a certain set space rather than scrolling along. Yeah. So you're moving around. You've got like various different jump moves. You can kind of double jump. You can move. You can fire lasers. You obviously can get specials, and you can do loads of things like that. But it's just really frantic, and it's hard without ever being unforgiving. Like having just played quite a lot of Celeste, after a while I was just like, oh God, please, this feels like an obstacle course I'm never going to win. This one feels a little bit more forgiving, but it is hard. It is really
I've
tough.
watched a bit of it on YouTube. It does look fun.
It really is fun.
And a cool colour palette as well. It's all kind of red and
and
black, basically.
It's got a quirky little story as well. I mean, you're kind of effectively you are trying to take back hell, really, I suppose, in a way, and like all the demons are up against you. And I think it's the soundtrack's great. I really love the music. The look of it, it's got that as you say, that colour palette, which is actually works really nicely, even though it's quite basic.
It looks like Virtual Boy, if you remember what they used to look like, the red and
Oh,
black.
right. Yeah. Wow.
Instant headache.
But I've put in about 4 or 5 hours into it, and I'm really enjoying it. You know, like I'm just taking my time, like on my commutes and stuff like that. But it's really good fun if you like those kind of games. You know, like with obviously a bit of challenge, Cuphead kind of level challenge. Eventually, you know, I think it's a little bit more forgiving than Cuphead. You know, Cuphead basically takes no prisoners from the start. This one is quite sort of simple at first, so it leads you in, and it does a tutorial, which is quite unusual. So it's a bit more forgiving if you're a little bit like, ugh, Cuphead looks nuts, but do be prepared for a challenge because it gets heavy.
So, as I said at the top of the show, I think we should talk about some of the games that we've been, well, maybe not even if we've played them, but the games. Well, I went to Games Ranking, which is where Guinness World Records gets its review aggregates from. So I thought, well, usually in the book we'll rank them by the games with 20 reviews or more, because we like all that accuracy. Just to get a broader slice of games, I went for 10 for the purposes of this, because it gives us some of the sort of smaller Switch games, which obviously when you talk about games of the year, sometimes indie games should be in with a shout. So I think it gives you a bit more of a balanced outlook. Should we do it in reverse order and start at the... So I went as far back as, 79.44. So I was floating around this kind of 80% aggregate score. Yeah. So I took some games out. So games which were like re-releases or re-releases or just like, you know, like graphical updates and things like that, or ones that had been out on one system last year and had been ported across or whatever. I've kind of took those out of the list, and some others at my own personal discretion, because I do
so
what
you're
I
just
like.
removing things willy-nilly from
No.
It's not like that, don't remove it.
It sounds a bit loose, I gotta say.
It's just an indication. I just wanted to give a run of the games which are scoring all right this year, to see what we think about them. So let's start at Yoshi's Crafted World, which is on the games I picked out. This was the 23rd on the list, so it's a bit of an ad hoc 23, but whatever. Michael Jordan, wasn't it? 23.
Top 23.
So Yoshi's Crafted World, I think like Jack's played that the most out of it, and he's not here to comment. But
I played the demo.
So me too. So 79.44% across 31 reviews. So I mean,
that's pretty low, I think.
Yeah, I was surprised. I thought it'd be higher.
You know, I think there's a couple of people probably pulling that down who just didn't like it. I think a lot of people will have said it's too easy. I think a lot that will have got a lot of hammer on it, because I think people were expecting it to be a bit more of a challenge, and maybe a lot of people think it's quite basic, but
especially for a Switch game, because those are about 50 quid.
Yeah.
To have something you can crush through in a couple of days, if that.
I agree. Yeah,
probably one for the kids as well, isn't it? Really, like it feels like it's aimed at Nintendo's perfect audience of 8 to 12-year-olds. You know?
Yeah.
So next up, we've got what I've just been talking about, actually, SteamWorld Quest, the Hand of Gilgamesh.
Ooh.
Not Gilgamesh. Gilgamesh. That's clever, isn't it?
Oh, clever.
26 reviews, 79.85. I think it should be higher than that. I mean, I'd probably, if I was doing the old percentage marks, it'd be slightly higher than 79.
You should have done a review, shouldn't you?
Well, it's only just out, isn't it? Or, well, I suppose it's 26
it is only just out, but already 26 reviews. Then we've got, surprising for me that it's in the top, like this high up the list anyway, but Ace Combat 7, 80.56, which I say I was slightly surprised by. It's not that I thought it was going to be a terrible game, but it's quite a high game. It's 80.5.
Isn't it a bit of a return to form, essentially? Yeah. It's like people were waiting for this game for a while.
I think that people have a lot of time for this, because it's quite an old series, isn't it? And I think people like the fact it came back strong. And it had like a little bit of a nod to VR as well, and that kind of probably helped to get people on board a bit more. But yeah, 80.5. I
think it's worth 80% just for the dog alone. The
clip-art
dog.
You know what? That might have actually helped it.
I would give it 8% for that.
And then one, I know that Jack's actually got this and should have been talking about it today, but he's not here because he's ill.
He's got the lurgy.
But yeah, Box Boy and Box Girl.
Really looking forward to this.
Yeah, it looks really fun.
Yeah, can't wait to play this.
I was like,
have you played the demo?
No,
there is a demo out.
It's also got Rectangle Guy.
I'll give it a go, actually.
He's quite tall.
Has anybody, have you played it?
No,
I played the demo.
Yeah.
What did you
Yeah, I
think
mean,
of it?
it's one of those sort of like puzzle games where it's little levels, and you're like, right, how am I going to think of this? And when the solution finally comes to you, you're like, no.
Yeah, it's nice.
I must admit, I've not played Box Boy. There's 1 and 2, isn't there? I've not played any of them.
It looks great. I'm really looking forward to playing it.
I was like
how much is it going to be? How much?
Yeah.
What's your price point for that one?
It's free.
Let's play the demo forever. Tropico 6.
Yeah.
This surprises me. I don't know why, but obviously on the PC, 81.77%.
People love this stuff.
I've never played a single Tropico game.
No, but this one seems to have got a lot better reception. I've seen quite a lot of coverage for it, isn't it? And you're basically a dictator on an island, aren't you?
You always are.
Yeah. All 6 iterations.
I mean, Tropico 5, right, was on PS Plus, I think. Like, it's a free game that we could all have downloaded. Well, not free because you pay for PS Plus, but you know what I mean. But I've never once. I don't think I even bothered to like register it as once in it, so I've not even got it to play for free. But
sounds like an ice lolly, doesn't it? Tropico.
Yeah, it does.
Weirdly, it's made by
Calypso.
It's Tropico made by Calypso.
So the next one on the list, 82.06%, is the Etrian Odyssey. Well, Etrian Odyssey Nexus, which is a 3DS turn-based dungeon crawling RPG. Which, let's face it, it's probably not that big over here. I guess it's got a bigger following in Japan. If I don't know it has, because I checked it out on Wikipedia. But yeah, I've not played any of the Etrian Odyssey games, but apparently this new one's good, so that's nice.
Well, it's on the list.
Newsflash.
I don't think it'll be figuring in the game of the year chat.
No.
So, 17 Metro Exodus. So I played quite a bit of this and enjoyed it, but yeah, it's probably about right here with 82.56%. Interestingly, on the Xbox One, it had slightly less of 79.46. This is the PC review, actually, the 82.56. Then on PlayStation 4, it only got 79.
That would be a bit lower on the PC because of the controversy of it being on
Epic Games, but I suppose that hasn't impacted people's reviews of it on.
True. Actually, yeah.
If you're a true impartial reviewer, which most are, so all are, I guess.
I'm gonna pick it up when it gets to the magic price.
I mean, I enjoyed it. I really enjoyed it. Yeah, when it hits PS Plus.
When it hits £5.
It's good. I mean, it's very different than the other Metro games in that it gives you much more sort of area to explore and freedom to do it. It's much more like Fallout, so you would like it.
I really like the look of it. I mean, I think I just couldn't get into the other Metro games, but there was always something there that I was interested in, and I always kind of thought, okay, well, as soon as they do one that's a bit more open, a bit more kind of forgiving, a bit less kind of like of a slog, then I'll be in. And this one looks like maybe is it?
Yeah, no, I think it's really good. I must admit, I've not gone back to it. The thing is, it's been such a busy year with one every week. It feels like there's a new good game out, and it's just been. And then there's Tetris 99 to play.
A game from the 80s.
I remember when the first Metro came out, the press companies sent out the book with it. Not that I ever read it, actually, but it's based on a book by I think it's by Dimitri something or the other, isn't it? I can't remember his name.
He did press, didn't he, at the start of it, and then it sort of went, oh no, you're not doing any more press.
Oh really? I don't know. It's because it's a Russian novel, isn't it? It's like quite big in Russia. I think it was originally released. I might be getting this totally wrong, but I think it might have been like a free thing at first. Yeah, like released online, but like an ebook, and then it's gradually got this massive following, which has led to it being much more.
He's really successful, isn't he? And I think I don't think he's got a stake in the game, but he's obviously very closely associated with the books. But I think
as in he's the writer.
Well, no, sorry,
very closely associated
with the games. But I think the games have probably taken on a bigger life now, haven't they? Really, because they've been backed so heavily by Microsoft and stuff like that.
Yeah, I guess. So. What I don't know is if
I'm sure the books are very good.
I just don't know if the books cover Exodus. They probably do. Number 16 was this really interesting looking PC game, which was a new one on me. Actually, I'd never heard of it before. But Hypnospace Outlaw. I know we've looked at it.
Yeah, it looks great.
So basically, the idea is that it takes you back to the year 1999, just before like the millennium and the year 2K bug and all that stuff, millennium bug, and it recreates the websites of the time, but kind of like in a weird comedy way. So there's all these kind of what's it called, ICQ rooms and like weird old-fashioned chat rooms. So it's like a way for the kids nowadays to see what the internet used to look like. And
it's like a bit of Mission Impossible 1, the Newsnet spamming.
It's a massive like parody on what the internet used to be like, essentially. And I think you play this person who's supposed to be going around like censoring stuff or stopping people doing like copyright theft and stuff like that. It just looks really fun. They've nailed the way websites used to look with, like everything was like singing gifs and crazy. You're probably too old. You're too young for this. Me and Andy remember.
I remember all this stuff. Yeah. I mean, like, I just wonder whether it will be it'll wear a bit thin after a while. Like you're gonna go, okay, unless there's got to be some kind of bit more substance than just that shtick.
Well, I read a couple of reviews. I think that is, but I think there's a bit more of like a dark storyline going on in the background too. But the reviews are just saying like what keeps you going is the fact it's really interesting to read all the information on the websites and like what they've made up debates from people about things that were happening at that time. So they basically made like the equivalent of people arguing about Game of Thrones or whatever, whatever was big in 1999.
Seinfeld.
Like, you remember those games that we looked at? Something Lost Phone. Or was it?
Another Lost Phone.
Another Lost Phone, and there was another one, wasn't it? And basically, like that's got
Yet
a bit
Another
of a
Lost
vibe.
Phone or something like that.
And basically, you download an app, and then the game's pretending to be an app, but it's also like you'll go into someone's email, and then you kind of build the clues up to find out what's happened. Yeah, it's just like but it had a retro vibe. That must have been set in the 90s or something like that, wasn't it? Or,
I think it was probably the early 2000s. I think the difference between that one and this one's got like loads more you can go to. It's like it's a bit like Her Story where there's millions of little intricate things that thread to. Anyway,
what's that guy doing these days?
No, he is making another game. I can't remember.
Hurry up, because I want to play that.
Up on your phone. Next up is Catana Zero, which has only just come out. 15 reviews, 82.97. This is the one where you're playing it's like a pixel art samurai game, where you're going through these levels. It's a little bit like Hotline Miami, but 2D. But the idea is the same, where it's your approach to each level is what gets you through, and it's kind of like Groundhog Day. Every day you go, I think if you get killed, you wake up in the same place again, and you've got to go through the levels again.
Right.
But it's all about timing, ducking under people's gunfire, just moving as quickly as possible, and there's like dash attacks and stuff. It looks really.
So it's
fun.
like having the perfect run.
Yeah, sort of thing. Exactly. I mean, it's going to be a big one on speedrun, I'm sure. But that looks really fun. 82.97. I kind of thought it might be even a little bit higher than that from the general like take on it so far. But there you go. Next up on the list, Mortal Kombat 11.
Yep.
Yeah.
So yeah,
got in there very quickly, didn't it? Got in there very quickly.
83.73 off 37 reviews. Do you think that feels about right?
Good. Yeah, I think so. I mean, it's a game with a lot of content. There's a lot in there, and it's always these fighting games have a big following that's sort of attached to them. And I think there already been like tournaments and stuff that have been going, and it is a very good game, very sort of high quality stuff in there. It'd
be interesting without the crypt and the controversy around the pay to. The pay to unlock stuff, whether or not that would have been even higher, or if I know I've read a few reviews for it and they have all mentioned it, so I guess that's meant they've took off a percentage point here.
I think in the reviews that I kind of read about it, they were sort of saying like, look, it's a great game. It's like there's a lot here. I just don't like that bit. I don't think they necessarily fully factored it towards it because it's not the gameplay itself, is it? It's not that. Many things are locked behind that. If like characters were actually locked behind the grind in the crypt, then that would be disastrous.
I think one of the things that people were a little bit annoyed about was that one of the characters that you unlock early on in the storyline, but isn't necessarily available from the start of the game if you don't do the story, was you could buy that character from the shop straight away. So there was, I think they might have fixed that now, but there were little things at launch, which was even a little bit cheeky.
Yeah.
Number 13 on the list, Wargroove. Now I enjoyed this game. It was billed as like Advance Wars for the new generation, and it's not quite as well presented as Advance Wars used to be. Advance Wars, I should say, used to be. Still good though. I'm not sure if it'd really come into the.
Ooh, he's not sure. Even though 84.5%. Oh no, 84.4.
I think 84.44. Yeah, I've not gone back to it since. Like I was talking about it on the show, and I thought I would do, but then I don't know. I just haven't.
That says a lot, though, doesn't it? I mean, like if a game loses you and you don't go back, it's kind of like.
I was enjoying it, but I don't know. It's just something about it that's missing in comparison to Advance Wars. I don't know what it is. Kingdom Hearts 3 is next on our list. So you've got actually we were going to splice a few records in here, and this one's got one, hasn't it? So you might as well take that away in a second. You can also tell us if you think so. 84. So Xbox One is the one that is the highest score of Kingdom Hearts 3 from 10 reviews, 84.5. Obviously, you got a lot more reviews on PS4, which means its score dropped a little bit to 82.45 on average. But yeah, do you think you've played a lot more of this than I have?
I think because it's the culmination of such a long, epic story that I think that was going to give it a bit of a bump anyway. I still think that the gameplay is fun, even though it kind of feels like it runs on automatic a little bit, that there's only a few button presses and then millions of things, insane things are happening. It's still very cinematic and quite enjoyable to play. I was having a bit of an issue with the fact that I don't really know what was going on in the story, and I felt that the story did get in the way a fair bit, to the point where I started just skipping cutscenes. I was like, right, I'm in this world, what have I got to do? Oh, I've got to do that, and then I'll just skip most of the cutscenes between then and that
I guess there are
point.
two kinds of players of it, aren't there? There are people who have followed it all the way through and they really care about what happens to Sora and this, that, and the other. And there are others who just want to get to the next Disney World because it looks really cool.
And that's the thing; it does look really good. And I would say that the game is fun, even from the perspective of someone who doesn't really know what's going on in the story. It is a fun game, and I think there were some criticisms that it was too easy. Far too easy, even on the proud difficulty, the hardest difficulty.
I think they've just put in a more difficult
They have just released critical difficulty, which is even
harder.
I was playing it on proud, and I was finding it pretty easy to just sort of just go through. I wonder if going back to critical would sort of ramp up the challenge even more.
This feels to me like the first game in our list so far that could be in the running for talked about in Game of the Year.
I think it might get a couple people interested, especially the people who are sort of die-hard fans of the story, because even though
or of RPGs in general, I think.
Well, I said this is more of like an action game.
Well, I don't know. Never write off a Kingdom Hearts game. People have been waiting for this game for a long time.
84.5%. That's hardly set the world on fire.
No, yeah, but then
there are 11
I mean, if I got
games
that in an exam, I'd be very happy.
Yeah. To be fair, you were absolutely
that shows
right.
the way review scores have got so crazy, isn't it? That we're going 84.5. That's a bit low.
Yeah,
that's like insane.
Like you say, if I was 84.5% sure on something, I'd be pretty sure about it, wouldn't I?
Oh yeah.
But I will quickly throw in a record then. It's actually Kingdom Hearts 3 is the fastest selling Kingdom Hearts game. 5 million total number, and that was just in 1 week.
Wow, that's pretty good, isn't it?
Yeah.
Man, that's a lucrative franchise, isn't it?
Yeah, that's again why it's going to be in the conversation, because it's sold so many copies. It's got to be, really. Next on our list, one for you, Andy, Tom Clancy, The Division 2.
Oh, yeah.
We're actually filming this before the next sort of Tom Clancy game is, I guess, announced by Ubisoft.
Yeah.
Well, it's a Ghost Recon. Is that specific, isn't it, though? I've got The Division 2. I haven't much played The Division 2.
Okay.
Apparently it's supposed to be
I played the first
pretty
bit.
decent.
Yeah, it's just one of those time sink games.
It's a grindy sort of loot chase, isn't it?
I'm saving it for a quiet time that'll never come.
And actually, interestingly, that's one of the things that I don't like about New Dawn, which is what Tom Clancy do. Bullet sponge bars on enemies, and for some reason some enemies can just take an absolute pounding for no reason at all, and they've got like the bars that you've got to delete down. I don't know,
just because it's like a level 50 enemy, it has to take
just like random. I mean, in New Dawn it's just like randoms basically. Like it's just like, why have you done that? You don't need to do that. I mean, I'm not playing Destiny. If I want to play Destiny, I'll do that. But
the Division 2 actually does sort that out a little bit. So some enemies are still pretty bullet spongy, but on the whole, if you get a headshot now, they're going down. Whereas on Division 1, if you hit them in the head, it would still just be like a little.
Oh yeah.
So they have to an extent addressed that criticism, which is quite really good, obviously. So this has got 84.5 based on 12 reviews on PC, but then on the Xbox One, you're talking 83%, 81.19 on PS4. Again, it's because many more copies were reviewed on PS4. Again, I think this one could be in the sort of talk of when people are talking about games of the year. Not in ours, clearly, because none of us have played it. But I do think it'll be. I do think it'll be there or thereabouts.
You're charged between now and then to have played it, Mike.
Well, I will.
I'll tell you what, it's going to have to be a pretty rubbish 6 months. The rest of the 6 months, if that's on top.
I don't know. People have loved the game though since it's come out. It's been really. I think it depends if they continued like the DLC and get a nice rhythm of it going. I think it could still be figuring at the end of the year. I really do think that's got a shot. The next one, surprise to me, Dirt Rally 2.0 by Codemasters.
It's a really good result for Codemasters.
Yeah, 84.82. This is based on the PS4 version of the game. You've got a record for this one too?
I do. It's well, I didn't actually find one for Dirt Rally 2.0, not as of yet, but I did find one for Dirt 3, which is the first racing video game to integrate user uploads to YouTube. So there we go.
Put your best laps. That's so. I'm not sure what year that was, but it's so funny now because now it's just like a button press. It's like not even like a thing now.
That was a big thing about then, wasn't it?
Yeah, well, this is it. Like, before Twitch, before I guess when was Dirt 3 released? Let's have a look. But yeah, I expect that was a while ago.
Yeah.
But these racing games do have a very avid fan base, especially like when the new Codemasters racing game comes out. It's a big sort of deal, isn't it? So
definitely.
I'm not surprised to see it that high up on the list.
2011. So yeah, that's going back a long time.
Yeah.
That was a big deal back in the day.
8 years. That's 8 years.
Number 9, a game that's
that's 8 years, Mike.
a game that is way too far down this list. Tetris 99. That should be number 1.
Game of the FU.
Definitely, it's definitely a contender.
Surprised that's actually not got higher.
Yeah, me too. So this it's only been reviewed. I think it's because it's like a free title and some outlets won't necessarily review it. So only 10 reviews, and it's they are the 10 reviews of the game. 85%. Which like to me, what more do you want?
Didn't you say you were removing re-releases from this list?
It's not a re-release. It's an original game.
I'm teasing.
There's a slight I see that.
My only gripe with it is that you can't just play single player Tetris, and they've locked it down. But I can understand why they've done that.
That would be quite fun, actually.
But no, it's a really fantastic game, and it's so addictive that I think my wife will take it off me one day.
Throw the switch.
Yeah. I think it must have crossed her mind. But no, it feels like it's low down. But anyway, it's moving swiftly on. Ape Out, which is a game that I really fancy getting. So it's basically Hotline Miami, but you're a monkey, a gorilla, or something.
An ape.
Yeah, but you seem to be really big, bigger than a chimp.
Maybe you're like that one from Rampage.
Gorilla's an ape. Yeah, I think you're probably a gorilla. Unless you are Josh from Rampage, good shout. It's really fun. So it's just like Hotline Miami, except you can do much more crazy moves, like you're whacking people really hard into each other and stuff like that. It's really cool. It's got like this high, rapid beat music going off. It's like a
jazz soundtrack.
Well, that's it. It's jazz. Yeah,
like the DK games.
Yeah, kind of. I think they've done
Could you
it.
play this with the bongos?
Oh wow! Yeah.
That's a speed run that I want to see.
I think it's all tuned so that every move you do is replicated by the jazz going off. Right. So it sounds really cool.
Nice.
It's one of those ones that we'll wait for a Switch sale and pick it up probably.
The magic price.
Yeah, the magic Switch sale.
The magic price.
But yeah, again, I think that one could be an outsider in people's talk. Maybe it depends. People like to throw in like Celeste, obviously, an indie game that got a lot of plaudits. Yep. I think this game this year so far of all the indie games is the one that's like
standing out.
Yeah, and maybe I'm sure between now and Christmas something else might come out and steal its thunder a little, but it's certainly been well received. We're into the top 7, and we start with another free game.
Yes,
the Apex of Legends.
Yeah,
little heard of title.
We played when I was around at your place, we played.
I showed you the ropes, didn't I? By being incredibly bad at it. Well, a little bit.
I learned
intoxicated.
how not to play it.
And if you saw me play, you'd still learn how not to play it. But yeah, what I've dabbled in, I've very much enjoyed of Apex Legends. 86.83% on the PlayStation across 15 reviews.
Do we get the sense that its star is waning a little bit?
Well, I don't know exactly. You get those stats from like how many people are watching it on Twitch, and that does seem to be slightly. I wouldn't say going off a cliff, but it's the downward trend is there. But then at the same time,
did it rise too quickly? Yeah,
maybe. I mean, Fortnite also has upped its game. You've got the volcano thing going off. You've got all that happening, and I guess they're sharing an audience pretty much.
Well, Fortnite have gone more for we're now a platform, kind of almost like Minecraft in a sense.
Yeah, absolutely.
So they're kind of building it into that, whereas Apex Legends is a very good sort of just a
battle royale. Yeah.
I suppose we should say while we're off air, Epic bought Rocket League.
Of course,
Psionics, So, I mean, apparently it said they're not going to take
Royale.
Rocket Royale, yeah. Rocket. Actually, you can see that happening, can't you? Kind of like a combo type thing, but.
Isn't that just Twisted Metal?
Let's
do that. Let's have that.
Yeah.
With 100 players.
Yeah. But apparently they're not going to take it off Steam, but. I mean, having that exclusive on the Epic Games Store seems like
I suppose the trick would be to do Rocket League 2 as the exclusive, wouldn't it? Because surely everyone's got Rocket League. It's been free on PS Plus. It's been free almost everywhere at some point.
Yeah.
Anyway, but yeah, Apex Legends, really good hero shooter. Again, it could be one that figures in the Game of Year chats, I think.
I think it will.
It really has stolen a lot of thunder from Fortnite.
If it keeps up the popularity. Then
it depends how like season 2 and 3 go, because we're in the middle or coming up to the end of season 1 now, I guess. If season 2 kind of has more of everything and starts to get people excited again. It's funny with a game like this, it's all about word of mouth and how many people are playing it on Twitch and stuff, isn't it? It feels like Fortnite and Apex and all those games are now locked in this battle for getting people on like YouTubers and Twitchers to play their game and get their game
keeping them
and get it going with the momentum that way. It's such a different way of games working than ever used to be the case.
That's the case everywhere, isn't it? Influencers are dominating, isn't it? You know, like there was like a really interesting article, I can't remember where I read it, but basically talking about kind of how influencers now kind of they're evolving, have gone beyond just like saying here's me with a product to much more about kind of living a lifestyle and people going I associate basically being celebrities, isn't it? Really, what we're talking about influence. They're just celebrities.
Yeah, they're just a new a new addition to the celebrity space. They, really.
It's like people are saying, there's something so new. It's like no, they're just celebrities. They're just not using the television. They're using the internet. I mean, like what? It just seems ridiculous to me, really. But you know, they seem to range from the kind of the good to the bad, like anything. But probably for games makers like Respawn, they're absolutely vital, aren't they, to get a big player playing their game and getting with the audience. You know, imagine there's a lot of backroom deals that go on.
Well, there was the rumor that they paid Ninja a load of money to stream Apex Legends when it first came out, because obviously he's like the big deal on Twitch. And yeah, I know that like Fortnite, they associate themselves with a load of different streamers who they kind of like help through the process because they see the value in the marketing and advertising of that. So yeah, there's a lot. Like you say, it's really interesting. Probably a show in itself in a way.
Yeah.
Maybe we'll revisit that at some point. Number 6 on our list. I guess maybe you got a shout for the best sports game of the year, but MLB The Show 19. Does it even come out over here? I never see it in shops in the UK.
I ain't heard of it.
Massive in the States. So this just continues Sony's long-running baseball series. So far, off 20 reviews, 86.9%.
And is also the best-selling PS4 exclusive sports video game series.
Yeah, I was trying to think about this, because there aren't that many alternatives, are there?
No, I mean, it sold
there are a few.
4,920,000 units, and that's for the series, and that was as of February this year.
More than like FIFA or
no, because that's not exclusive to PlayStation.
Oh, I see. Sorry.
It's sports games that are exclusive to the PlayStation 4.
See, I like cricket, but I don't want to play. Every cricket video game I played is crap.
Brian Lara cricket.
Well, it's not crap. But I just found it really boring.
It's like rugby games as well. They just never quite catch it right, do they?
Bored. Like I play football games, but everything else, apart from John Madden, where you just do a Hail Mary every single time. That's
that used to be the strategy on the old Super Nintendo.
Go for it.
I've not played a Madden game for since it's hit this 3D era. Really, I don't think. But,
it's like really complicated tactics, and I'm like, I don't want to go to work when I'm playing a computer game. I don't want to let me blooming homework.
But you're doing it wrong if that's.
Number 5 is a game I've not played but I really want to, which is Sunless Skies. I spent a lot of time playing Sunless Seas on the iPad version of it, where you had like a little submarine and it was like an apocalyptic future of sort of London, basically, where the world had been, like a steampunk kind of world, where the world had been submerged underwater and all that was left was like the peaks of mountains essentially, and that was like the land masses, and you sailed your little submarine from point to point to try and get, buy and sell goods, find out what's going on different islands, stuff like that. It was a little bit like Faster Than Light, but with more of actually physically steering your boat and getting attacked in real time and stuff like that. But yeah, really great game. I guess that Sunless Skies continues that vein, but I'm assuming you're in an aeroplane or a blimp or something. So yeah, but yeah. Fail Better Games is the name of the studio, which I like, because I did fail a lot at that game.
Fail Better.
Yeah.
What happens is when you die, which you will do frequently, you can kind of like save one of your like some sort of progress, but not all of it. So it might be that you can take a chunk of your earnings or some of your like rank that you've earned or experience. You can take that back with you for the next playthrough. So it's like Groundhog Day, but you're able to take a hat back with you or something.
That was kind of like
or a pair of nice sunglasses.
Into the Breach, was that a bit like that as well?
Yeah, kind of similar to Into the Breach. Yeah, but obviously that's different combat.
Yeah.
But yeah. Well, that was Into the Breach is like not a follow up, but like the next game by the guys who did Faster Than Light, which two of my favourite games ever. There you go. Fourth on the list, a game that I know Luke is happy to play, is Devil May Cry 5.
Yeah, I mean, I really enjoyed this game. It's just a sort of like all-out action game. I mean, the story is kind of silly. Again, there's a big plant that's just landed in the middle of Earth.
Big plant.
Big plant.
That's what they call me.
A big devil plant. And you've got to stop it. I think this game is all about just getting better at the sort of flow of the combat. It doesn't feel very punishing because I feel like I was playing it on the easiest mode, but even like on the harder difficulties, you still just get extra lives constantly, and it's just a case of like, no, be better at that encounter, off you go again. Doesn't feel like it penalizes you for say dying or experimenting with different things.
It's trying to get you to play at the level it wants you to play, though, isn't it, with all the crazy swordsmanship. So do you think this could figure into
I think this is definitely going to factor up there. It's been, well, what's his review score? 87.85%.
Yeah, 87.85 off 31 reviews.
So that is definitely a big one, I think.
I was going to talk about that.
Well, we can do so. I realise. Well, all right, we'll do it. So third on the list, Sekiro: Shadows Die Twice, which I have sunk a lot of time in getting not very far at all. But I do, like, as with all From Software games, it's really good. Presentation, like the way you always blame yourself to a certain extent when you die.
I mean,
you messing up.
Like I was saying with Devil May Cry 5, it doesn't penalise you for dying and experimenting. I feel like this game does.
Oh yeah, and then it waits till you're on the ground, then it hits you, and then it puts a bit of dynamite on you. But it's a great game at the same time. But I've not played it since we were talking about it because I've lost how to play it as well to a certain extent, and I was rubbish at it anyway. I'm going to be even worse.
I did go back and try again, but it just still didn't get me again.
One day, like I finished Bloodborne. I feel like I've got this in me, but
you can do it. You can do it, Mike.
But yeah, I personally would if between now and the end of the year I go back to it and get really into it, I do feel like it could be one for me that I'm like talking about if and when we do our game of the year at the end of the year. Cuphead. So I put this on the list just because it got a major kind of re-release on Switch, but then also had a few little bits added to it here and there, so you can play as Mugman and stuff. And I just felt it was just enough. Even though I've just crossed it out on my list with an but I do feel like it had just enough new things.
I think it is worth putting in. I mean, like, you know, it was an Xbox exclusive, wasn't it? And it never come to PS4, I don't think.
No, it hasn't. No, it's only on Switch and Xbox.
So it's kind of, and the Switch version is, the Switch kind of experience is so different, isn't it? You know, like, I really enjoy it. I mean, like, as I was saying earlier, you know, like, it's kind of, it is brutal. You come in and you're just like, whoa, this is hard. But then it makes you, number one, you always know it's your fault. You died. Number two, it makes you learn the patterns, doesn't it? Which is what a lot of games are kind of, when they're at that difficulty, are looking for you to do. You've got to learn the process. You've got to learn the pattern. You've got to trial and error. And yeah, I don't usually like games that are hard. I like to have no challenge whatsoever. But I really enjoyed it. You know, I am really enjoying it.
I should say 89.17% the Switch version. I'm not sure if it'll be able to figure in the Game of the Year talk or not, just because it's obviously been around for a couple of years on Xbox.
I would be surprised.
Just quickly, most hand-drawn frames of animation in a video game. So there's a record there. 45,000 individual frames of animation, which I think ties quite nicely into the fact that all these enemies really telegraph their attacks. So it is very much about learning those patterns, but it becomes quite easy to spot them. So it's easy in that sense, but difficult to then react.
Yeah,
definitely. Yeah.
And then top of the list, Resident Evil 2, 92.39% on PS4 across 41 reviews.
That is that's impressive, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, I've played not enough of this game. It's another one that I need to properly go back to. I know you've completed both campaigns.
I haven't done the B stories actually. Okay. I've done both A stories. But I quite like this game for the sheer fact that it's kind of like, it's a bit of a throwback to the older style of game where it's a sort of shorter campaign, but again it's like encourages you to do it again and again. It gives you slightly different perspectives each time, but even then it's a case of like learning the map and finding the better routes and finding the quicker solutions to things. And there's just lots of things to manage, even that, you know, you've got the tyrant at one point running around, but I did find that if you just kind of walk rather than run everywhere, he can't hear you, so he's not drawn to you instantly. And the fact that rather than going for headshots, I'm going for knee shots now. Making the zombie topple over and not be able to get back up again makes it a lot easier to then navigate around them, because if you hit them in the head, they may go down after an entire clip, but then may get back up again.
It's the big difference between this game and previous Resident Evil games is that headshots don't actually take them down very easily or very quickly. Like, you actually have to hammer them with quite a lot of shots, and like you say, they'll
very
like
new
drop,
dynamic,
and then they might get up again. You can do that thing where you can quickly run up to them when they're on the floor and give them a little bit of a slashing if you're that way inclined.
But it does also give you extra modes as well, because the main campaign is quite slow and methodical as you're trying to sort of like, you know, you're conserving ammunition, but then it does have all these different survivor stories. So there's 4, maybe even 5 of them, which is more like, right, here's a load of ammunition, run, and just really enjoy the sort of combat that they created for it as well.
I think that Resident Evil 2 and Sekiro will be the ones that will, and maybe Apex Legends will be the ones that will be like floating around as potentials come, you know, Christmas time and everyone's talking about
definitely.
Quick record for Resident Evil 2, the most popular first playthrough character in Resident Evil 2 is Leon. That's by 80%. I think that's mainly because in the original Resident Evil 2, you had to play as Leon first before going to Claire. So everyone, I think, who was playing this again were like, I've got to start as Leon. I've just got to.
Kind of.
Even though you don't need to.
Even though you don't have to,
I made a list of, just to quickly finish because we're running a little over, but games that they had a lot of hype but haven't figured in our list. So Days Gone just come out. Not reviewed brilliantly, not terribly, but not brilliantly.
I do want to play it at some
70.78% so far.
I think with this one of all the Sony titles, this one looked vulnerable, just because they've done a lot of press for it, and that sometimes means that they're a little bit worried about, like, how is it going to review, how is it going to go through, but also it's just a bit generic, isn't it? It's just a bit like a zombie open world shooter. What's the new shtick? Well, we've got a horde mechanic, but how much is that used? Apparently it gets very grindy towards the end. You know, it just feels a little bit throwback.
Yeah, no, definitely. Crackdown 3, which just feels like, why did they even bother in the end? 62.6%.
Do you know what? That is a pretty good score for Crackdown.
It is actually, yeah, I was surprised.
I'm actually
but that's
very
in the danger zone, though. If it's not 80 and above, then...
Well, no, I mean, for Microsoft's own internal process, this is an absolute disaster. But like in terms of like realism with numbers, 62.6 is better than average.
Because it launched with absolute chronic problems, didn't it? Which is amazing considering how long it took to come out. Like, you know, they were talking about that years ago.
Yeah.
To launch with that many problems, just like...
With like a separate weird multiplayer mode, it didn't quite work properly and all. Anyway,
shocker.
Weird. Anthem, which has just had so much bad press.
Quite
Still liked my brief time with it.
They are trying to get people to stick with it, though, aren't they? It's like, we're gonna fix its issues and then give you the content.
It just seemed to be that it seemed to be that it came out
that,
in the same sort of time period as Division 2, give or take a couple of months, and it feels like everyone was waiting for Division 2, and Anthem just got a bit of a kick in the wait for Division 2. But yeah, it's like, again, for EA, this must be a bit of a disaster for their internal, what their expectations were. But having said that, it still sold quite well, I think. So, all they really need is the numbers, I suppose.
Yeah.
But 57.97% across 32 reviews so far on PS4, I think that is. So. And then finally, Jump Force.
Jump Force on there.
You didn't like it, but you played a little bit.
I thought it was alright. It's silly, it's dumb, and compare it to something like Mortal Kombat 11, it's nowhere near that. But just to see Goku throw a massive spirit bomb at Frieza and just watch the entire arena explode, and then them getting back up again and fight each other again, it was worth the silliness.
So 53.36%.
That's about right down the middle.
Yeah, lower than like Anthem and Crackdown 3, so not a great. I think a lot of people complained that it didn't feel finished. Was the main complaint of it?
I suppose not. Yeah.
I've thrown a spirit bomb in my freezer a few times.
What does that even mean?
Wink, wink.
But yeah, so there we are. So we're as I say, coming up to the midpoint of the year, and that's the state of play.
Yeah.
Sony state of play.
Well, we've got, there's going to be some serious challenges in there later on with the glut here. We've got a new Call of Duty game coming out. It's pretty much nailed on to be Modern Warfare 4. And there's obviously going to be a load of stuff. I mean, maybe Ghost of Tsushima, Tsushima.
Possibly go Gears of War 5.
I would have thought that's probably likely, and then obviously anything that comes at E3.
They're the one that's where it's like it's hard to know whether The Last of Us Part 2. I don't think that'll be a PS4 game, or if it is, it'll also be a PS5 game. Although I suppose that's everything is anyway, isn't it? It's a bit confusing because it's backwards compatible. But
yeah.
But yeah, and Day Stranding is the other one.
And
Death Stranding, sorry.
Death Stranding, yeah.
And yeah, they're the ones where you're like, well, is it going to come out this year? I've got no idea. But those are the ones where you're like, if they do drop that bomb at some point, then that's suddenly going to be like the one that's in massive contention.
Yeah. And there's a glut of studios. I mean, Microsoft could have a really strong E3. There's a glut of studios which they've purchased, a glut of games that they've purchased. You know, and obviously then we've got Star Wars Jedi.
Yeah, Fallen Order. Yeah, let's hope that's on there. I'd love it to be that good that it is figuring.
Yeah.
What's funny because you're coming up to this end of the generation, and there's that they've got games they're working on but not showing. They've got a lot going on, like behind closed doors. They're keeping close to their chests at the moment. Like Nintendo as well as Microsoft and Sony, and it's just interesting to like what will be dropped before like this Christmas, and what are they going to keep for that next generation, and then of course Nintendo have got Luigi's Mansion.
Can't wait.
Lots of different Animal Crossing. So much to be excited about on Nintendo's side of it. So yeah, unless anyone has any more to add, I think we'll wrap it. Let's wrap it.
Wrap it.
All right. Thanks for watching, guys. As I said at the top of the show, if you want to check out our other shows, you can just Google Guinness World Records Gamers Podcast, and you'll find us on all the usual places. And as I said, we'll be with you again in 2 weeks' time, so look out for that next show. All right. Thanks for watching.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.